to bring good paying jobs, union jobs, to folks. Colleges are for everybody. Bringing apprenticeships, bringing different opportunities, bringing manufacturing back. Those 13 million jobs added under this president, 800,000 are manufacturing jobs. We're bringing that back. So this is a way to make sure everyone understands all these things matter. And this president, everything we do is about strengthening the middle class, making sure working folks, as he likes to say, just have a little breathing room. And that's what our role is in this administration, and make sure everything we do now that we're implementing these historic laws, that we do it not just to come out of the pandemic, but come out stronger with a more fair economy.
When you talk about breathing room, you were leader of the negotiations with Kevin McCarthy that produced this debt ceiling agreement.
Hi. Before we continue on the topics, do you like already what you see? I talk a little bit, I give you the issue, and then I play on the computer the topics that matter the most. Remember, politics is not just a blood sport. Politics in America, it's your business, it's your taxes, because we all pay taxes. That's why we all are political. So the decisions that are made in Washington affect our pocket, our houses, our families, our children, our mothers, our brothers, our uncles, our grandfathers. And Joe, did you see on the state some pieces of the State of the Union that Joe Biden is working, and all these people, all this entourage of lawyers working to get better packages for the middle class. Remember, if we have a strong middle class, we have a strong economy, strong country. And the Joe Biden wants like people, apprenticeships, union jobs. When you have a good union job, you have decency. You have you don't worry that tomorrow you're going to lose your job. Number two, also Donald Trump criticizes Joe Biden that he's old. Yes, Joe Biden is old, but he's working and he exercises, and Joe Biden doesn't dye his hair blonde, and he doesn't wear makeup. I want to see Donald Trump riding a bike like Joe Biden. I want to see Donald Trump without the hair dyed, like with white hair, because Trump is a little old too. And I want to see Donald Trump without makeup. And now let's go back now to Senator Bernie Sanders, who is always working a lot with President Biden for the middle class.
And we turn now to that crisis in the Middle East and renewed fears of violence in Jerusalem. I do want to note that we have an extensive bipartisan conversation with the chairs of the Senate Intelligence Committee that will be coming up in a moment. We're going to begin with Senator Bernie Sanders from Burlington, Vermont. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning.
You have long been a critic of Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The other night, President Biden was heard on a hot mic after the State of the Union address saying he has to have a come-to-Jesus talk with Netanyahu about letting humanitarian aid into Gaza. Have you spoken to President Biden about whether he had this conversation? If he hasn't, what is he waiting for? And if he already had it, has it made any difference?
Well, I've spoken to people very high up in his administration. Here's the bottom line. Margaret, what we are seeing in Gaza today is literally an unprecedented crisis. It's not just that 30,000 people, 2/3 of them are women and children, have already been killed. We are looking at the possibility of hundreds of thousands of children starving to death. The United States of America cannot be complicit in this mass slaughter of children. So it is one thing to talk to Netanyahu, to pressure Netanyahu, but here is the bottom line. Year after year, we have provided billions of dollars in military aid to the government of Israel. Right now, you have a right-wing extremist government under Netanyahu. There are plans to provide him with another $10 billion in unfettered military aid. Well, you can't say to Netanyahu, stop the slaughter Allow the massive amounts of humanitarian aid that we need to come in to feed the children. Please, please, please. Oh, but by the way, if you don't do it, here's another $10 billion to continue the war. Now, we have written a letter to the president. It turns out that Israel is in violation of the law. Stopping American humanitarian aid is in violation of the law. That should be clear. No more money to Netanyahu's war machine to kill Palestinian children.
You said Israel's in violation of the Foreign Assistance Act, as have a handful of other Democratic senators. They may also be in violation of the Leahy Act. The president himself has the national security powers to suspend. Do you really think, though, in a presidential election year, that the president of the United States would halt or pause or condition aid to one of the closest allies in the Middle East?
Well, I think it is the right thing to do. You can't beg Netanyahu. You got to tell him, if you want any money, you got to change your policy. Allow the trucks to come in to feed the children. And by the way, in terms of politics, which is secondary to my mind in this issue, the truth is, whether you're a conservative Republican or a progressive, you do not want to see children in Palestine starve to death. So I think it's good politics, and it's the moral and right thing to do.
Do you stand by your view that a full ceasefire with Hamas is unrealistic because that terror group seeks to destroy Israel?
Look, what you need right now is a ceasefire tomorrow so that the trucks, the massive amount of humanitarian aid can come in to feed the people who are starving. But you have Hamas is dedicated to destroying Israel. You have the Netanyahu government, which is dedicated to destroying Hamas. I think at the end of the day, Hamas cannot be continuing to run Gaza, and the Netanyahu government cannot continue to run Israel if we're going to ever bring peace to that region.
But a temporary ceasefire is sufficient for you?
To feed the children right now is what we've got to exactly do.
Okay. Yesterday, President Biden was asked about Israel's plans to launch an operation into the southern city of Rafah in southern Gaza. Listen to what he said.
Would invasion of Rafah, which you have urged him not to do, would that be a red line?
It is a red line, but I'm never going to leave Israel. The defense of Israel is still critical, so there's no red line. I'm going to cut off all weapons so they don't have the Iron Dome to protect them. They don't have, but there's red lines that if he crosses them, you cannot have 30,000 more Palestinians dead.
Was that clear to you in terms of where that red line is, and what do you make of it?
Look, Margaret, 1.7 million Palestinians, 80% of their population, have been driven from their homes and displaced. Many of them end up in Rafah. To go in there and to displace them again and start a major military campaign would be an unmitigated disaster. So my view is, of course, we cannot support an attack of that kind on Rafah. Bottom line is, though, Netanyahu has got to be told no more money for his war machine unless there is humanitarian aid coming in to feed the people.